Evening, whenever you're watching this. Today we're going to take a look at the House of Representatives versus the Senate and some of the unique differences between the two. All right. Starting out, all right, as you know, this was created through the Great Compromise or Connecticut Compromise to have a bicameral legislature with different responsibilities. All right, the House has a 435-member body determined by the state's population. That number has been frozen since 1929. They kept adding as the country got bigger. They started adding and adding members, and they realized they were diluting the voting strength so much that they just permanently froze it at 435. There's been talk of making it 437 to account for the District of Columbia, but that is so heavily Democratic, the Republicans will never let that happen. And your Senate has 100 members, 2 per state. Pretty straightforward with that one. Okay, the qualifications. You'll notice that the Senate has tougher qualifications all the way around. To be in the House, you need to be 25 years old and a citizen for 7 years, and you just have to live in the state. Even though a House member represents a specific district, those districts change every 10 years with the census. So you might end up being drawn out of a district, or they would draw a new district that excludes you, but you can still run for that. So our last representative in Mundelein was Joe Walsh, who, when he ran, lived in Winnetka and moved to McHenry, so he did not live in the district initially. The Senate, because the framers, the people that wrote the Constitution, wanted the Senate to be older and wiser, they required 30 years of age and a 9-year citizenship, and also have to live in the state that you represent. Okay, the term of office for a House member is every 2 years, and that is so there would be frequent elections to keep them accountable to the people. Constantly have to go back and ask for your job back again. Whereas in the Senate, they have a 6-year term to more remove them from the people and keep them a little less accountable and free to make their own decisions. And they're elected every 2 years, but only 1/3. So Illinois, in this last cycle, did not have a Senate election because we elected Dick Durbin in 2008 and Mark Kirk in 2010. So Dick Durbin will be up in 2014 for his seat, and he's probably going to win. So I would not expect a very exciting race for that one. All right. Now, how are they elected? The representatives for the House are directly by the voters of the district. This is popular sovereignty at its best. The people decide. All right. They choose their representatives by a direct vote for everybody that's in the district. Most recently, Brad Schneider won in our congressional district, and for some of you, Randy Hultgren won on the other side of Route 83. Senators were originally chosen by the state legislature to remove them from the people and sort of have a little less accountability and more free to think on their own. And then due to the populist and progressive movements of the late 1800s, early 1900s, they passed the 17th Amendment, which now lets the senators be directly chosen by the voters. So the voters now choose the House and the Senate in that regard. All right. The presiding officer, there are several officers, but the ones listed in the Constitution, all right, the House has a speaker that's chosen every 2 years by the majority party. That would be John Boehner. And he's chosen by the Republicans. And then the Senate officially is led by the vice president. As the president of the Senate, he is only there to break ties, and rarely does he show up. However, Joe Biden has been involved recently with the gun legislation and resolving the fiscal cliff. So the Senate, the VP can be involved, although he rarely does. The real head of the Senate is the Senate Majority Leader, but there is no constitutional provision for him, and that's Harry Reid. Okay, special powers. All right, this is crucial. All right, and these are powers that are unique to each house. All right, you'll notice for the House, all of their powers are kind of because we want them to be connected to the people. We want them closer to the people. So the House can bring an impeachment charge against the president or any judges. If they do something wrong, they can accuse them. That's what impeach means, to accuse. Remember, Andrew Johnson and Bill Clinton are the only presidents to be impeached. They were accused of a wrongdoing but not convicted. And that's so the people can hold their elected officials accountable. The House gets to choose the president if there is no majority in the Electoral College system. That would be 51%. That's happened twice. It happened in 1800 with Thomas Jefferson and 1824 with John Quincy Adams. And that's again so the people can choose the president if the Electoral College cannot. And then the House has to start all revenue bills. And a revenue bill is any bill dealing with taxes. Why? Because the founders wanted the people to be the ones to raise your taxes. On the Senate side, you'll notice all of these are powers we want bestowed upon the older, wiser senators and kind of more removed from the people. All right? And that shouldn't have happened there. Sorry. All right. The Senate is the jury in an impeachment trial. All right. And you need a 2/3 vote to convict. That's why no president has been removed from office. All right. That's to make sure that both parties agree and that there's an overwhelming or what they call supermajority to remove a president from office. All right. And they wanted the old, wise senators to be able to do that. The Senate may choose the vice president if there's no majority in the Electoral College system. Only rhyme or reason for this is the VP's the head of the Senate. Why shouldn't they choose their leader? All treaties must be approved by a 2/3 vote. Okay, treaties 2/3. That's a good way to remember that. And again, that's so the people could kind of be removed and not have the popular whims deciding whether our treaties get approved. And also, the Senate's supposed to be older and wiser with the longer terms. And finally, the Senate has to approve all presidential appointments with just a simple majority. We're seeing that right now with John Kerry as Secretary of State and Chuck Hagel as Secretary of Defense. The Senate has to vote on those before they can officially get the job, just so there's more accountability and people more connected. All right, that kind of solves our differences between the House and Senate. Thanks for listening.